A power-hungry necromancer seeks to become ruler over the undead, with the goal of world domination. He has traveled far and wide in search of a builder to construct him a magnificent temple, and now his evil magic resurrected me from the grave. With our help, he wants to unite 3 warring skeletal tribes to establish himself as king. But the jungle has become cursed, creating daunting enemies that stand in our way. Will we be able to overcome the jungle's curse? What powers will I attain? Will you like and subscribe? Watch to the end to find out. Now, here's 100 days as a skeleton. Day 1, the necromancer gave us no time to stretch our ragged bones after who knows how long we've been cramped up. After destroying our graves, he said he wanted us to fend for ourselves, gathering food and materials. Then we were supposed to meet him back here to set up camp by the next day. So I went to search the area and was very careful to avoid sunlight because I remembered from my past life what happens to skeletons in the sun. I carefully moved from tree to tree until I found a river. I collected a little bit of jungle wood to craft a pickaxe, then I dug down to get some stone, crafted some better tools, and jumped in the water to go fishing. For some reason, I felt like I would drown if I stayed under for too long. That didn't make much sense now that I don't have lungs, but I guess neither does needing food without a stomach. I think the necromancer needs to hone his magical skills a little more. Anyway, after getting some fish, I got out of the water with now wet moss all over me. But I had to get straight to collecting some more resources to get back to the necromancer in time. As I collected wood, I tried to remember my past life, but it felt like a distant memory. The blue light that resurrected me still clouded my mind, but I was jolted back to reality when this plant came alive and began to attack me. It took a lot of effort to defeat him, and he managed to bring my health down pretty low. I searched for a cave to hide in and heal up, but instead, I found what looked to be a mysterious gateway to another dimension. When I went through, it turned out to be this video's sponsor, Genshin Impact, a free-to-play action RPG game that is open world. Journey through the magical land of Tevat with 3 expansive regions to explore. You can climb, swim, and glide through the world. I really enjoy exploring the beautiful landscapes and seeing what kind of elemental powers I can unlock. You also don't have to play by yourself. Genshin Impact is cross-platform and available to play on PC, Android, iOS, and PlayStation 4 and 5. You can take on difficult challenges and meet a wide variety of characters. Genshin Impact has a lot of characters to play as, and they are planning to add even more, like Ito, the leader of a powerful gang, and Goro, the canine general, along with new bosses for you to fight like the Golden Wolf Lord, items to unlock, and events you can participate in. Use the link and code in my description below to get Genshin Impact on your devices, plus 60 extra Primo Gems, and 4 times the adventurer's experience. Start your adventure today and explore the new island area Inazuma. When I got to the end of the road, I went through another gateway leading back to my dimension and into the actual cave I was trying to get into before. I wanted to collect enough iron to make a helmet to shield me from the sun, and I figured it'd be a good way to wait until nightfall. Once I had my helmet, I found another way out of the cave system I was in, and at this point I needed more food. But first, I would need a better weapon for both hunting and in case nature tries to kill me again. The necromancer gave me a cool spear to use, and it looked like the other skeletons went with the classic bow and arrow look, and there were some zombies added to our ranks. I thought it would probably be useful to have a bow too, so my first group of prey became a few unsuspecting spiders. Then I turned my attention to hunting some of the local animals for food and other useful materials. As the sun rose on day 2, I decided to start heading back to the necromancer. I was still a little on edge from the attack the day before, and I still had hunting on my mind, so I was pretty startled when I saw something move in the treetops. When I made it up there, it turned out to just be an ocelot. I took a quick look at the sun before heading back down. My head felt really hot, but luckily my helmet protected me from bursting into flame. When I made it back to the necromancer and his troops, they had gathered some materials for the camp, but had not set anything up yet. I used what they collected to set up some basic defenses and a place for the necromancer to work on his spells. The other skeletons were smart enough to hunt down some chickens and collect feathers, but they didn't collect much gravel, so I couldn't make any arrows quite yet. With the sun setting, the necromancer lit the campfire and gathered us to him. He wanted to tell us his plans and explain why he raised us from the dead. Long ago, there was a king who was a powerful necromancer and could raise huge armies from the dead. His name was lost as time went on, but his story lives on today. This nameless one ruled over these lands and 3 neighboring tribes with an iron fist. Eventually, each tribe sent one warrior to the nameless one's palace, and they betrayed the king. With his final breath, he cast out a curse upon the tribes, causing them to turn on one another until someone worthy to be king unites the tribes again. They still fight even today as undead warriors, and the king's artifacts that could possibly be used to unite them are still missing. Thus, the necromancer wants to grow his own army and construct a magnificent temple in hopes to be seen as king in the tribe's eyes. Then, with the tribes under his command, he can take over the world. As he finished up his story, the sun began to peek through the trees. Day 3, we were sent out to start collecting some more resources. resources. I took some time to gather some gravel so I could craft some more arrows. Then I collected some cobblestone and coal for building purposes. On day 4, I was going to take my resources back to camp and start collecting some new materials, but I was distracted by a strange looking witch that blended into the jungle surroundings. I decided to follow her and see what she was up to. As I moved in closer, I thought I saw a stone statue, but then it began to move. She kept on going, but he noticed me. So I charged at him and tried to hit him, but then everything went dark around us and I couldn't do anything. I tried to run and was slow moving. He almost killed me with just one hit, but I did get out of his grasp and tried to lose him in the thick of the jungle. He kept pursuing, so I shot at him with my bow until eventually he fell. That was a terrifying experience. I wished I could just fight the plant mobs. At least that's what I thought at the time, but now I really wanted to see what the witch was up to. I continued to follow her through the jungle, and it was pretty easy to blend in with the surroundings with all the moss on me, so I was glad I didn't clean it off yet. We traveled quite a bit until we reached what looked to be one of the tribes the Necromancer spoke of. The witch seemed to be talking with the leader of the purple tribe, but things were not going her way. She stormed off back into the jungle. Maybe she wanted them to follow her too. That's when I realized I had strayed pretty far from camp, and I thought I should head back and report this. On the way back, I stumbled upon a small little pond, so I decided to finally wash off all this moss. While I really liked the green look, I decided to move on and focus on the future. After almost dying a few times, I was becoming more interested in the powerful magic the Necromancer wields. On day 7, I realized I was heading a bit in the wrong direction when I made my way to another edge of the jungle. This time, I saw a weird bee-like creature fighting off more of those plant monsters at the edge of the jungle. I was watching intently, so I was pretty startled when a bee flew up in my face. Okay, really startled. I fell out of the tree I was in. That caught the attention of the bee warrior, and it began to approach me. I was prepared to fight, but they were not hostile towards me. Apparently, they were only interested in keeping the jungle's curse contained and stopping it from spreading to other biomes. Before I could ask any more questions, the bee knight said they had to report back to their queen, and off they went. So I decided to head back as well to report my crazy encounters to the Necromancer. This world has changed a lot since what I could remember from my distant vanilla past. Day 8, as I got close to the camp, I found an onslaught of a plant horde attacking our undead troops. I ran in to help fight and face off against some tough adversaries. We lost a lot of good soldiers, but we managed to survive the attack. After the battle, we all decided to spend the day gathering some more food to heal up and prepare for any more attacks. The next day, I went back underground to gather some iron and coal to use to make a full set of armor. When I returned to the surface, I came out a different exit with full armor. The only problem was I didn't know exactly where I was, so I climbed the trees to hopefully see something that I could recognize, and when I made it to the top, I saw what looked like 2 dragons flying in the distance, with someone or something riding one of them. I was not going to try to mess with them, so I headed back down to the ground and began looking for the other cave entrance. On the beginning of day 10, I made it back to the camp and received some new orders. The Necromancer needed just a few more ingredients from the nether to cast a potentially fatal spell to raise up a stronger armored army. I was tasked with collecting some nether wart, blaze rods, and bone blocks, so I started traveling to a nearby ruined nether portal that he got to be in working order. I felt bad for the poor soul that he was planning to test this potentially deadly spell on. He said the ruined nether portal was not too far from here, and when I found the portal, I noticed some weird looking zombified piglins. For some reason they were blue and looked a little warped. They were definitely more hostile than the normal zombified piglins. One was fairly easy to take down, but you do not want to have to face a horde of these. When I went through the portal, the nether looked fairly normal. I began traveling in search of the ingredients the Necromancer needed, and I soon saw a blaze far away, playing with a small little white block floating around. As I got closer, I realized it was a baby blaze, not that far away, and he was looking pretty derpy. Then I also realized he was playing with a baby ghast. It was so much cuter than the baby blaze. The cuteness did not last long though, because they thought it'd be funny to light me on fire and fly away. I spent the next few days traveling through the nether looking for a fortress for the first 2 ingredients. That's when I ran to an older looking piglin that turned out to be a merchant. I decided to stop and ask him about the blue piglins, and he said warped piglins came from another dimension to take over this nether. While some piglins still rebel against the warped king, the merchant just wants money and was tasked by the new king to take these prisoners to a dungeon built above lava. He wasn't that interested in talking with me anymore when he found out I didn't have any gold, so I just went on my way. Then on day 14, I found a fortress and took some time killing a few blaze and trying not to be caught by any wither skeletons doing that. Next, I grabbed some nether wart and looted the chests around the fortress. Amongst my loot was a saddle that came very much in handy. I spent the next 2 days riding around on a strider that I captured, looking for a soul sand valley on the way back to the portal. I did manage to find one and gathered some bone blocks. You know, it would be really cool to resurrect whatever left these giant fossils behind. On day 17, I started heading back to the portal I came from when I found that jungle witch from the other day, and she was followed by a few of those mossy statues. It was odd to see them in the nether, so I decided to follow her, and soon we arrived at this massive open gate with debris all over the place. But she seemed more interested in the lava. That's when a cool staff came flying out of the lava and descended down into her hand. That was a little bit too terrifying for me, so I decided to leave before they found me. By the end of day 18, I made my way back to the nether portal and headed back to the overworld. Upon return to the overworld, I heard a colossal roar in the distance, coming from deep within the jungle. I really don't understand why the Necromancer wants this place to be his home. I guess it's because it's so close to all the tribes. It's just so dangerous. As the sun rose on day 19, I made it back to the Necromancer and gave him his ingredients. He went and put all the ingredients in a cool but creepy looking cauldron and began citing an incantation. Then he turned to me with a strange look in his eyes. When I realized that he was about to cast a spell on me, I turned and ran for my life, but it was too late. Luckily I survived though. With a zap of calcium radiating from my spine, my bones grew bigger and stronger, but my iron armor broke off because it was too small now. The Necromancer approached and promoted me to Vanguard. He gave me some better armor that actually fit, as well as a shield and a glaive. I was looking really nice and felt like I could take on whatever the jungle threw at me. After the Necromancer upgraded the rest of his troops, he took a small retinue of soldiers to go investigate that roar I heard the night before, and he tasked me with scouting the surrounding areas for any clues for what might be causing the jungle to come alive and attack us. On day 20, I found a swarm of bees fighting some different plant mobs, and they secured another victory. I thought it might be a good idea to go ask the bees if they would help with putting an end to the jungle's curse, but they actually couldn't talk. They did seem to understand what I was wanting though, and it seemed like I was supposed to follow them. It was a really odd experience trying to befriend a swarm of bees, but I had hoped that they would take me to that bee knight I met before. Let's just say I got way more than what I was expecting. On day 23, the bees led me to a giant beehive, and when I got to the entrance, I met their queen bee.
Hello! A skeleton visitor is highly unusual here.
Hello, what is this place?
This is the Bee Kingdom, and I am its ruler, the Queen Bee.
You do have quite the palace.
Why, thank you. I'll show you around. Most rulers don't pay bees with the flower biomes any attention. We are not seen as a threat in the eye of people like the Archivoker.
I don't know who that is, but it makes sense, I guess.
With nothing to hinder our progress, we've become quite the advanced species. A little bee pun there for you. Anyway, I'm sure you're here about the hostile plant life.
Actually, I was just intrigued by the bees who were able to fight off those things, so I followed them here. Tell me, what kind of dark magic did you use to improve your soldiers?
Magic is just unexplained science. I genetically modified my honey for all sorts of uses, including builds and to make my bees smarter, faster, and stronger.
Well, with whatever you did, you made a powerful army.
I want to be prepared for times like these. I'm sure we'll cross paths again before this is all over. Unfortunately, I must take my leave to feed my little bird friend. Here, a little snack for your travels. It was nice to meet you.
Thanks. You too. She seemed really busy at the time, but she did say we would see each other again before this is all over, so I thought I could eventually convince both the Necromancer and her to join forces, and finally put an end to this curse. I took the next 2 days traveling home and found the Necromancer waiting for me with a bigger army with him. We spent that night talking by the fire. The jungle was apparently too thick to traverse as they got closer to where the roar came from, and he was also not interested in getting help from any bugs. At the dawn of day 26, the Necromancer tasked me with venturing back to the purple tribe I went to before to ask them to join our growing ranks and tell them of our power. So off I went. When I got there, I carefully approached the tribe leader. They weren't too welcoming after the witch showed up. He told me they were not interested in joining our forces, and when I asked him about the colorful grass he had, he said it was a sacred relic from the Nameless One and that I now overstayed my welcome. I quickly left because I did not want to try to fight this whole tribe. When I got back to camp on the night of day 27, the Necromancer was not pleased to hear my news. He said we'll have to possibly try another one of the purple tribe camps later, and that he would send me to a different tribe in the morning. When the sun rose on day 28, I was sent off towards the desert to find the yellow tribe, this time to find out more about the tribes and what it would take to unite them, other than a big army or the Nameless King's missing artifacts. I was also told to steal their relic this time if they had one. On the night of day 29, I made it to where one of the yellow tribe's villages should be, but all I could see was a normal desert village. I was pretty confused until I got closer and saw who dwelt in the village. Apparently, the modern villagers were inspired by their architecture. I asked to speak with the leader and was led inside to one of the buildings. The leader told me that only the Nameless King could unite the tribes, and he was long dead. He also said said that each of the tribes have a relic that their ancestors stole from the Nameless One. I started running back toward the jungle when he told me their relic was taken by the jungle plant monsters, and that they may consider joining our army if I return their relic. On day 30, I made it back to the jungle and found some plant mobs guarding something. I ran in and tried to fight my way toward the relic. These foes raised up a wall around me while I tried to hit them. That gave the giant nearby flower a chance to shoot at me. Once I killed the mobs who trapped me, I slowly went up to the flower, shield in hand, until I was close enough to strike and kill it. Then I was able to grab the relic, and it turned out to be a magical satchel of snacks. This would be really useful while living in the desert, but something within me told me not to return the relic, so I headed back into the jungle and toward the camp. When I returned home, the first thing I noticed was that the Necromancer's army was even bigger now. I told the Necromancer that they were not willing to join his cause, and that I was not able to get the relic from them. He actually believed me after what happened at the Purple Tribe, and now I had my own magical item all to myself. The next day, the Necromancer decided it was finally time to build a palace. He gave me his plans to construct his temple and told me to go collect some stone for it. The temple would be a safe place for the undead to dwell, but just because he would look like a king doesn't mean the 3 tribes would submit to him. But he is stubborn and had long given up on finding the Nameless One's artifacts. I spent the next several days collecting cobblestone and coal to make stone bricks, as well as iron for both shears and an anvil. And as I was leaving the cave, I heard another roar ring out from the heart of the jungle. I was starting to get really curious if that had something to do with the jungle's curse. Speaking of which, on the way back to camp, I was ambushed by a bigger plant mob that jumped really high into the air and crashed down on me. I tried to get under something and jab him with my glaive as much as I could until he finally fell. Then I raced back to base, ready to do some building, safely surrounded by the armored undead. Unfortunately, those plans were interrupted on day 38 when I found a small group of wandering heroes fighting one of our patrol parties. They killed most of them, but I intervened and scared them off. Before heading back to the camp, I went hunting with the survivors to help them get food and replenish my own supplies. Although the satchel I got the other day also did give me food. When I did make it back to camp, it was finally time to clear out an area for the temple. I set most of my cobblestone to smelt and took several days to clear out and level a big chunk of the jungle. It took a lot of extra time and iron because I wanted to save as many vines as I could for some mossy blocks. I might have used fire to clear out the majority of it though, but it was well worth it when I had a smooth area to build upon and a ton of resources to use. Now that we had a wide open area, we were more prone to attack, so the Necromancer had me put up some defenses around the perimeter as well as an entrance to the temple. The extra defenses got him thinking about the wandering trader attack the other day. We couldn't be fighting the jungle mobs and creating a conflict with the villagers at the same time, so he wanted them to be dealt with, and I was off on another excursion. I went back to the area where I first saw them, and that led me to some open plains with some more plant mobs. I charged into battle and killed one, but before I could kill the others, a huge bee came flying over and dropped a bunch of potions on them, killing them like weeds, and almost killing me in the process. It was a close call, and as I healed up, I heard a familiar voice.
Hello again. Are you okay?
Yes, I think so. I've never seen such big bees in my life before.
These are honey bombers, one of my experiments I'm currently working on. Genetically enhanced bees who deliver quite the payload. We didn't see you out there.
Yeah, I could tell that much. Thanks for the help anyway.
We'll be sure to be more careful next time. 2 bee puns. I'm hilarious.
So, the jungle is getting more out of control. I think it would be better if we teamed up to stop this curse.
I concur. I have some suspicions on what is causing all this, but I need to do some further research before I can prove my hypothesis. In the meantime, I'll send you some troops to assist you in battle. My bees have seen the location of your temple.
Thank you. Any support you can offer is much appreciated.
Until next time, bye-bye!
I'll see you then. I was starting to feel more hopeful about putting an end to the curse. Now I just had to stop the wandering traders from attacking us again. I spent day 49 traveling through the countryside. It was nice and peaceful, but a part of me actually started to miss the jungle. On day 50, I found out why the wandering traders were in the jungle. They weren't looking for us necessarily, although they don't like us. They were actually looking for the jungle witch because of how she's getting her stone guards. It also looked like she was being tracked down by some tough-looking pillagers. After the witch was long gone, I waited for the pillagers to leave to investigate the village for myself. It seems the witch has the power to turn villagers to stone, and then I guess also mind control. Those stone guards were actually villager minions. No wonder the wandering heroes were in the jungle. Amongst the statues that she left behind, I also found an evoker that was turned to stone. I guess that's why the pillagers were tracking her too. I decided to travel back home after all that and tell the Necromancer about the witch's power of turning people to stone and her mind controlling abilities. He seemed more intrigued than concerned, and he no longer cared about the wandering heroes. And what he was more interested now in was the temple. So I took a few days putting down the foundation and building up the base of the temple using only stone bricks for now. Then it was time for a little bit more detail. I made an entrance to the temple and filled in the walls inside. Now the inside was just one big empty room, but it was a great start. Next, I also added some stairs on each side of the temple, leading up to a nice balcony for the Necromancer to sit on his new throne. On day 57, I was distracted from building when I noticed a cute little creature watching me. As I moved closer to him, he vanished like a ghost, but then it respawned farther away like he was leading me somewhere. Curiosity got the best of me and I pursued. I followed him into day 58 and he led me to an old abandoned shrine with a bow and a soul lantern. When I picked up the lantern, I summoned the little ghost guy. Then he cast a spell on me that restored and enchanted my armor. It also gave me a more powerful and longer spear. I just love how magical this jungle is. He was happy that I freed him, so I gave him his little lantern and started heading back toward the temple. I spent the next 2 days adding in mossy stone bricks and cobblestone along with some normal cobblestone to the temple to give it a more jungle type feel. Then I added some tiki torches leading to the entrance of the build as well as some more lighting around the build. I was on a roll and I just needed to do the interior. I added some pillars and some tables for my undead brethren as well as a big blacksmith area with smithing tables and fletching tables. I also added some lava and an anvil. Now we could eat and make some good equipment. When I went to go tell the Necromancer that the interior was completed, we heard another roar ring out in the distance. On day 62, a squad of bee knights arrived with a swarm of bees accompanying them. It was just in time too, because a patrol zombie returned soon after and told us of another attack, but this time it was not by the plant mobs. He described the attackers as a green witch with scary moving statues. I told the bee force to follow me and the zombie led us far away from the temple. When we arrived to where the witch was spotted, she was in a small clearing with her stone soldiers standing on guard and a weird stone dog-like creature with a huge mouth. When she saw us, she used the staff that she got from the lava to summon a small house that she ran into to hide. So we turned our focus to the stone monster she had created and charged in. It was the most epic battle thus far. The bees were super helpful in defeating them, but both sides sustained some losses. Once all of her troops were defeated, I carefully opened the door to the little house, and she had broken out of the other side to escape. At least for now, she didn't have any more soldiers though. Now that the temple was about finished, I was told to go to the red tribe. The bees chose to stay back and research what was causing the plant life to become hostile, so I went alone toward the highlands to tell the red tribe about the Necromancer's great army and temple, also to steal the relic. I arrived there on the night of day 65 and found the tribe around a big fire. I learned they go mining during the day to stay out of the sun. Their resources could be very useful, but the chief was, unsurprisingly, not interested in an alliance. He did say that their relic was taken too by the jungle mobs, and their forces were crushed when they tried to get it. Day 66, after they told me where to go, I made my way back to the jungle and found where they said the relic was. I understand now they meant their forces were literally crushed. I had to face more of those leapers, and it was a deadly combo having to fight the leapers while the flowers also shot at me. I just went slow and took out one guy at a time, then swiftly took out the flowers. This time the relic was just sitting out. It was pretty big, and when I picked it up and tested it out, I discovered it was used to regenerate your health. This would be very helpful in dangerous mine shafts. Now I had 2 of the 3 relics, and it was time to head back home. I arrived at the temple on the morning of day 67, and the Necromancer became suspicious when I told him I failed again to steal the relic. He wanted me to prove my loyalty by fighting off the pesky bees that he did not want here anymore. When I said I wouldn't, he said he would have to make an example of me then. He quickly hit me with his staff, and I pulled up my shield and backed away. Then he summoned some wraiths to attack me, and they began to overwhelm me, so I ran further down the temple and used my bow to shoot at them. Once they were defeated, I started moving back up the temple. I used my shield to try to block the magic the Necromancer hurled at me, and once I made it to the top, I jabbed at him with my glaive until he was also defeated. It was a bittersweet victory as I went to go pick up his armor and staff. He raised me from the land of the dead, and I just sent him there. When I went inside the temple, I didn't know what to expect. I was super nervous that they would all turn on me, but instead, they all vowed to serve me. The Necromancer would no longer boss them around. Instead, now they had me to lead them, someone who has both taken care of them and led them into battle. The bees were also happy I didn't turn on them. That night, we had a feast to celebrate me as their new king. The next day, I wanted a Necromancer lab of my own to study magic in, so I added a small little basement to the temple with some cool fire and a portal to the nether. Then the following day, I figured I would go and take the last relic from the purple tribe, so I started traveling over there. I wanted to become more powerful, and I was also just really curious what the last relic did. But when I got there, the purple tribe was ready to attack. They thought I was my old Necromancer leader. I told them that I actually just defeated him in combat and was just coming here peacefully. Unfortunately, I soon learned their relic was also taken by the jungle mobs, and this time it was taken deep into the jungle. So on the morning of day 70, I went back into the jungle, led by one of the tribesmen to where the relic was. I was concerned to see the jungle witch there not being attacked by the plant monster next to her. Once she saw me, she ran away before she could get her hands on the relic. The tribesman stayed back in the shade while I went in to fight what looked to be a bigger leaper, but he did not jump. He was a tank of a monster. He hit hard and had a lot of health. I had to run around to avoid taking damage, but luckily I had the regen relic now to heal up and a more powerful staff that I could use to pelt him with magic. This was the hardest enemy yet, and it was very satisfying seeing him topple over defeated. I walked over to the chest nearby and took out the relic. I turned to face the tribesman when something unexpected happened. There was a bright light, and the 3 relics all united into a green staff. The tribesman was amazed and said that was the Nameless One's missing staff. The tribal warriors of old must have fought over the staff and broke it into 3 pieces, making the 3 relics. He ran back to tell his tribe of what happened, so I quickly left too before his tribe could find me. I took the next 2 days trying to get back home, but I was in a bit of a daze and felt like I was being drawn elsewhere. Luckily, nothing attacked me as I aimlessly wandered around. Day 73, I ventured to the edge of the jungle and was facing the desert where the Yellow Tribes villages were located. That's when I saw those 2 pillagers from that village where everyone was turned to stone. This time they had a few more normal-sized pillagers with them, and they were standing at a weirdly colored portal.
Finally, another portal destroyed. These witches are getting out of hand.
I thought the Archrevoker was paranoid at first, but now they are becoming an increasing threat to the Elder's rule.
Come on, let's go find her before she spawns any more portals.
You know, I was expecting an army with her. I'm curious what she's planning.
While they were leaving, another roar rung out in the distance, and they all ran right by me into the jungle, almost spotting me. Once they were out of sight, I headed out into the desert. It took me a long time of traveling through the desert until I reached a desert temple. It seemed almost like the staff was trying to get out of my hand to go inside. When I went in, the desert temple was not like anyone I've ever seen before. There was a staircase leading down to where the loot should be, and there was only one chest, one weird looking chest. The staff started to glow now, and I was getting a little excited. When I opened the chest, I found a crown and a cutlass, the Nameless One's artifacts. When I donned the crown, green particles went everywhere, and I had been transformed. I felt smaller now, probably because I didn't have any legs. I also noticed my robes had changed, and the best part was that my health was stacked. Now my head felt cleared, and I felt more powerful than ever. When I went outside, I turned around and the temple mysteriously vanished. I guess that's why no one could ever find it. Now it was time to head back home. It was a pretty far journey home, so I had plenty of time to think over everything. It all began to make sense now. The staff was broken and split up by 3 warriors, and since the tribes are all at war with each other, the relics could have never been reunited unless someone took them all, and no one was able to find the Nameless One's artifacts because they needed the broken staff to guide them and reveal the hidden temple. Now the only mystery left to unveil is how the Jungle Witch is tied to the jungle's curse. Day 80, I made it back to the temple, and to my surprise, I found the 3 tribe leaders all waiting for me outside. They said their judgment was no longer clouded by the Nameless One's magic, and the only way for the undead to rule the world was as a united force. Then they told me of the magic I now possessed as the new Nameless King, so I tried it out and summoned a wraith, an armored zombie, and an armored skeleton. And when I went inside the temple, there were more B troops there awaiting my command too. So cool. I spent day 81 organizing my troops and preparing them for battle, as well as raising up more soldiers from the dead. Then the next day, it was time to wage war on the jungle. We went out fighting many hordes of the jungle mobs. It was all we could think to do to stop the threat. There were some really epic moments too. There was this one time where we all regrouped at the edge of the jungle, and we were met by this huge swarm of various plants. When both forces collided, we heard another roar over all the fighting, but we still continued to fight until we were victorious in battle. However, more and more jungle mobs seemed to be coming from the heart of the jungle. After several days of fighting, we returned to the temple to rest and recover. It was looking a little hopeless, until a bee flew up to me while I was on my throne, and it gave me a letter from the queen bee telling me to come meet her at her castle. So, over the next 2 days, I journeyed back to the bee kingdom alone, hoping she used her weird science magic to figure out a way to stop the jungle's curse. As the sun began to set on day 89, I found the queen bee on her balcony overlooking her honey fields. Hey, I got your letter telling me you needed to see me?
Yes, I have figured out what is causing the curse, but it's deep in the jungle, and it'd be difficult to get there on, well, I'd say foot, but you don't have any.
It's a long story, but it looks like I'm the king of the undead now. Tell me, what's the source of the curse?
A huge tree ant called the jungle abomination. He is the one creating the hostile plant life.
How do we get to him?
I do have a way to get there fast, but you're not gonna like it.
We need to stop this curse as soon as possible.
Okay, Hey!
Is this safe?
Of course it's safe, as long as you don't fall off.
What else do you have in there?
That is for bees only. No Skeleborgs allowed. Now get on, let's ride!
We spent the next few days flying toward the heart of the jungle. Now I know what all the roars were coming from, and I was going to have to face it in battle. Nothing I faced thus far was as terrifying as clinging to a giant bee really high up in the air above a jungle infested with monsters. But soon I would meet something much more terrifying. On day 93, we arrived at the heart of the jungle, and it was so beautiful. The trees here towered over anything I've ever seen before, and this is when the queen bee chose to share some secrets with me.
Before you go, there's something I wanted to tell you. The jungle abomination is normally a peaceful protector of the jungle and all nature, so naturally we have become friends over the past several centuries.
How old are you?
That's besides the point. The reason I'm telling you this is because I don't want you to kill him if you can help it. Defeating him in battle should lift the so-called curse, but you want to just make him yield. Then give him these bottles of healing honey. You can use some too if your health gets low during the fight.
I will try my best. Thank you for all of your help. I should be able to make it home on my own.
Finally, my humor is growing on you. Farewell, from one ruler to another.
The queen gave me a few honey health potions and flew off with her bees. Then I started heading toward the nearby structure. And when I got there, I carefully scoped it out and saw the jungle abomination sleeping in the middle of a huge platform. I also saw the witch there with him. If he was the one spawning all the hostile plants, then she must have traveled from that portal the pillagers broke to take over the mind of the jungle abomination and his minions. And with them under her command, she tried to get my staff to rule the undead as well. I decided to summon an army of my own for this fight. Once they were all ready for battle, I led them onto the platform as we tried to achieve a sneak attack. The jungle abomination awoke and stood up. He was really big and strong. He summoned his own troops to fight, and it was an all-out war. I tried to avoid getting too close, using my staff to hit him with magic, and when I did get close to him, or when his troops got close to me, I used my cutlass to fend them off. The witch just watched the battle from afar. For being so power-hungry, she seemed a bit cowardly. Even with so many hearts, my health got low, and I had to use the health potions the queen gave me. But eventually, the jungle abomination's health got low, and he yielded. The fighting stopped as everyone looked at the jungle abomination, now freed from the witch's mind-controlling curse. And that's when the witch turned and fled into the jungle, and the jungle abomination spoke.
Thank you for freeing me from that curse, small one. Be warned, there is a great darkness approaching, far more powerful than anything you have faced. When that time comes, all will be given a decision. All must choose a side.
I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but it did not sound good. After our conversation, I told my soldiers to head back to the Temple of the Undead while I chased after the witch. After some time of traveling through the jungle on day 94, I found the witch, and she was fighting the pillagers that broke her portal. She did not stand a chance against them, and once she was defeated, they noticed me.
Yes, let's get back to base and report this victory.
The Arch-Evoker will be very pleased. You there. I think he'll want to meet you.
The pillagers and I went on a journey back to that village where I first saw them to meet the Arch-Evoker I had only heard about from the queen bee. The pillagers apparently also watched me take on the jungle abomination because they had tracked the witch there, and that's where they realized I was the ruler of the undead. On day 98, we arrived to the village to find the villager statues were gone, and there were normal villagers hiding inside their homes. There was also an evoker accompanied by a huge beast and a little flying ghost. He managed to turn the stone evoker back to normal. Then he approached me and said that he wanted to be allies, giving me a pouch of corrupted seeds as a good gesture of faith. These seeds were used to control the mind of the jungle abomination. After I agreed to be allies, we parted ways and I started heading back toward the jungle. It took all of day 99 to get back to the jungle. It was a sight for sore eyes, especially now that nothing was out to get me anymore. On day 100, I made it back to the Temple of the Undead and sat on my throne, ready to discuss future plans with my tribe leaders. There were a lot of twists and turns on this adventure, but now everything the shadows touch is under my command. And that's how I survived 100 days as a skeleton in hardcore Minecraft. Thanks to Glitzcore, a cookie god, Force Bono, and Painful for helping me make this video. To Luke the Notable for starting the 100 days trend, to my patrons for the support, and to you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and also hit the bell so you can be one of the first ones to watch when I post a new video.
Thanks for watching.